Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. As today, we're apparently on a mission from God. Though, given some of the general rhetoric and metaphoria surrounding this whole thing, methinks that no matter how it ends, we'll ultimately be singing the blues. But, you know, we'll see where it all takes us, at least try to get more context. Let's see what Dan Rock can dig up for us, and then we'll just kind of figure things out from there. A pleasure to see you, Lord Captain. How may I be of assistance? Dan Rock, I've received instructions from one of the few people who may actually outrank me to look into one Naaki Erebus. Erebus? The clan name is familiar. If I may ask your lordship to give me a little time, the flagship's archives being as vast as they are, I will spare no effort in finding Naaki Erebus as soon as possible. 15 minutes later, the high factotum pokes a triumphant finger at the data slate. I found them, your lordship! The Erebus family are a lesser Voidborn clan. They served in the boarding teams for many generations, spilling blood in the name of the dynasty. In the service of her ladyship Theodora, Erebuses displayed impeccable heroism on several occasions. Unfortunately, the clan was all but wiped out 2 decades ago during a confrontation with enemies of humanity. For their valor and sacrifice, Lady Theodora granted the surviving members of the clan noble estate privileges and the right to settle on the capital world. Interesting. So not terribly unlike Abelard. Aren't Voidborn uniquely suited to life in space? Being sent to live planet-side on Dargonis. You're sure that wasn't some sort of punishment? Gravity is merciless to the Voidborn, but that does not mean they are incapable of adapting to it. Living on the capital world is a reward worth putting in the effort for. Sure, I'll take your word on that. So what about this Naaki? The name Naaki appears in reports. At least a dozen different women bore it over several centuries. But there is no data on any living person with that name. The head of the Erebus family will likely have more information about the past 2 decades of their clan's history on Dargonis. Right, fair enough. Though you've already let 2 very important details slip. 1, that Naaki is a woman's name. And 2, whatever happened to her was about 20 years ago. Very well. Sounds like I need to set course for Dargonis. I will send the dynasty's representatives on the capital world an instruction to summon the Erebus family to the palace. Thanks, Dan Rock. Excellent work as always. Yeah, a little early to say for certain, but I think the timeline does more or less match up. Young Mistress Ptolemy over yonder, and I think Raivor as well, both pretty clearly stated that there was a giant, likely gene stealer uprising about 20 years back, very similar to the one that first marked the rise of the Bloodspun Web generations earlier. I don't think they've really clarified how old Kibbles is, but she's definitely on the younger side.
Take heed, Nemo. Our blessed Domin honors us with a visit.
Oh, right.
The one who
okay,
delivered this ark from the... May the undone...
We're still doing this. Gotta say, Kibbs, I really thought the recent events would have shaken you out of that, but we'll see how things go on Dargonis. Obviously, we still need some of the finer details, but I think the general context here is pointing us towards the reveal that either she is Naaki Erebus, or Naaki Erebus is like the matron of the Erebus clan. And that regardless of who actually bears the name, ultimately she's the one who paid the price for for whatever deal was brokered to allow the Erebus clan to leave the flagship and settle on Dargonis. 20 years ago, though, why would Theodora take personal interest in death cult activities 20 years ago? The cult did save her from an assassination attempt, but the impression I got was that that was something that happened much, much more recently. And look at that, we've almost worked our way through the whole list. You know what? I think Adira's due a chance to relax without chemical assistance. Let's get her in here. If nothing else, it should certainly be interesting. At once, your lordship. Adira takes a draw from her hookah. She playfully blows a few smoke rings as she lounges lazily nearby. This is nice. 5 of my cabins could fit in here. And don't get me started on that rusty nook I call a shower. But I'm pretty sure you didn't call me in here just so I'd die of envy, did you? No, I just figured you'd earned a chance to relax. To unburden yourself, as it were. I know you've been under a lot of pressure. Heard any good jokes lately? What's the difference between a warp storm and a dispute at the Adeptus Administratum? I don't know, what? At least there's a chance a warp storm might end. Kind of feels like you're aiming for pretty low-hanging fruit there, but let's try another. What else you got? How many tech priests does it take to change a lumen? Why don't you enlighten me? 3. 1 to wave a censer, 1 to pray to the Omnissiah, and the 3rd to servitorize a serf to do all the work for them. Ah. Bleak. Dare I ask for one more? What do you call an unsanctioned psyker's cabin? I don't know, an airlock? An emergency airlock, Adira declares smugly. Yeah, Adira, this was a mistake. I'm gonna let you go. Thanks for coming out. Adira gets up reluctantly. Oh, all right. Have a nice soak, Lord Captain. Oh, Adira, what are we gonna do with you? You look for levity, and instead you get bleak acknowledgement of the futility of our grimdark day-to-day routine. Which, to be fair, I suppose is part and parcel of the setting. Well, now that we're nice and relaxed and only moderately depressed, let's get back to it. We're a couple of hops out from Dargonis at the moment, so while we may not be able to give Cabela closure today, we can at least give her the finger. And the bath, of course, was because I'm anticipating combat. Feels like a pretty safe bet given the nature of the threat. Still need to get that taken care of, too. In fact, give me a sec. Let me just get a gander at exactly where we are. Two hops out from Orselio. 2 hops out from Dargonis. If we go to Dargonis, though, then we're at a central hub where we can go pretty much anywhere from, including Viabo 6, which we do need to tend to. Alright, yeah, I think I've got a general idea of what we're doing. Let's go get fingered, then we'll head back home. Behold! The finger of sorrow still here after all these years. The hulk of a merchant ship drifts through the void like a gutted corpse. The hull is riddled with gouges from macro cannon fire. The soot-covered letters on the side spell out a somber name. Finger of Sorrow. A sorrowful sight indeed. Augurs, report. The ship is devoid of vital signs. Life support systems have long since failed. Cold, darkness, and silence fill the wreck of the Finger of Sorrow. Alright, well, obviously we're going to knuckle up and investigate. No risk, no reward. A squad of enforcers and tech priests put on their void suits and dock with the ship. The vessel is empty except for the frozen and desiccated corpses of the crew. Some retain human features, but others are easily recognizable as genetic aberrations. They have been dead for centuries. You check the logbook. The Finger of Sorrow was a common merchant vessel. The log records its travels along many of the trade routes of the Calixis sector. The last entry states that the ship departed from Port Wander on the border between the Coronis Expanse and the Calixis sector. The tech priest notes that the protocols for undocking from the station were not followed, indicating either a hasty escape or blatant disregard for the covenants of the Omnissiah. Well, given that it was clearly hit by mag gunfire, I'm going to guess the former. The hold is empty, apart from a few open containers. However, careful examination points to 3 open service hatches that bear claw marks. Venturing deeper into the service tunnels, the enforcers find 3 empty nests with chunks of purple chitin and dried traces of dark slime that has eaten through the metal panels. There can be no doubt that gene stealers once lurked here. Many of the cabins have become tombs for the bodies of the crew. They asphyxiated when the ship's life support systems failed. One of the enforcers notices a cache marked with a symbol of a fanged serpent, with a sharp tail and 3 clawed limbs. The cache contains an amulet and a miraculously preserved diary. Amulet of the Ravenous Star. Oh, dogmatic. Interesting. This amulet, in the shape of a fanged serpent with a sharp tail and 3 clawed limbs, once belonged to a magus of the Genestealer cult of the Ravenous Star. Doubles MP on the first round of combat. Good for alpha striking, I suppose. Someone like Kibbles would certainly benefit from that. Though obviously I'd much rather stick with our current Medallion of Dance Macabre. Let's get a gander at that diary. The ship seems pretty well abandoned, but I imagine it'll point us back towards Port Wander. The diary was kept by one of the missionaries of the Genestealer cult. According to the entries, this cult secretly spread throughout much of the Calixis sector, although the author does not mention any specific infected worlds. He recalls with reverence the Promised Land, the cradle of faith, salty as the tears of righteous martyrs. The author's branch of the cult had settled on Port Wander Station, the last threshold between the Calixis sector and the Coronis Expanse. The cult grew and gained followers among the workers and the poor, and even managed to infiltrate powerful trade guilds. However, their plans fell apart when the Genestealer's kiss was granted to an unworthy candidate. This oversight led to the discovery of the cult and a bloody purge. The author of the diary recalls with horror and sorrow how many of the pure-blood children of the Star Savior perished in the massacre. The story ends by chronicling the escape of a small group of heretics who managed to save 3 purebreds and steal a merchant ship under heavy fire from the station. They narrowly navigated the maw, but the ship's damage was too severe. The 3 phalanges of the Finger of Sorrow, the pureblood star children, fell into a long sleep and became dormant. Meanwhile, the cultists humbly watch the ship's life support systems fade away, one after another. In the last lines, the author welcomes death in the name of the many-armed Emperor, with solemnity and elation. Huh. Okay, which I guess implies we don't have reason to go to Port Wander. Alright, I guess we'll just nuke this thing from orbit. Call it a day? The Enforcers plant melta charges at key points on the vessel, and the explosion rips the Finger of Sorrow to pieces that are obliterated by strikes from the macro cannons. And quest complete. Man, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm glad to get some context as to where the infestation originally came from, but at the same time I was really expecting more. Not necessarily another grand twist or anything. I think they're saving that for Dargonis, but I was at least expecting like a one last Space Hulk style dungeon crawl. But alas, such was not to be. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's all I had planned for today. But I guess since we have so much time left over, well, I guess thematically, narratively, it makes more sense to follow up on Cabela's thing than it does to jump into Cassia's. So yes, let's stick with a tentative plan. We'll double hop over to Dargonis. Finally untangle this blood-spun web. Your Lordship, I have been told that you summoned the Erebus family to your court. Your subjects in question, along with their 4 offspring, have already arrived at the palace. They will attend the reception, honoring your return to the capital world. Sounds good to me. Let's get this done. As you wish, Your Lordship. Oh, I see. Well, that certainly implies things are going to go south. Your Lordship, allow me to introduce the next guest. Protectors of Dargonis from the void between the stars. Randor and Zioni of House Erebus, along with their heirs, Mathis, Lorna, Rono, and Lumi Erebus. Glory to the dynasty! Officers Randor and Zioni Erebus both make the sign of the Aquila, reverent expressions on their battle-scarred faces. Beside them are their children. Raised to love the God Emperor, they are mild-mannered but fascinated by their new surroundings. Judging by their uniforms, the 2 eldest children are already members of the Dargonis Planetary Guard. Your Lordship, it is a great honor for House Erebus to be invited to your palace. There is a glimpse of distinct anxiety in Randor Erebus's eyes. Zioni touches her husband's palm ever so slightly, gives him a reassuring nod, and addresses you. As a token of our greatest reverence for the Von Valancius dynasty, allow me to present you with a modest family relic of the Erebus clan. May it serve you faithfully. Voidborn's Pride. Whenever the wearer kills an enemy, their Medicae increases until the end of combat. Stacks. Wow, okay. Well, I mean, that would obviously be fantastic for someone like Kibbles, because she would cascade that Medicae gain, which in turn would spill over into like 7 other stats. This Erebus clan relic served its erstwhile owners faithfully as they boarded void ships. Engraved into it are the words, "May Naaki and Mathis preserve the light of your souls." Right, and we've got a Mathis right here, but no Naaki. Getting some real in exchange for your firstborn vibes here. Welcome, friends. Tell me, how fares House Erebus these days, given recent troubles? We are delighted by the favor shown to us, your lordship. Life in the capital is much calmer and slower compared to the ship, and I have almost gotten used to the gravity. The prosthetic supporting Randor's spine creaks under his clothes as he attempts an awkward bow. Cabela whispers, just barely audible. A crowd, the Damon's attention, and this being their first visit to the palace. They are nervous. You must give these people time. Let them get accustomed to these surroundings, and to your presence. Let them wander around the hall and taste the food. We will talk to each one individually. As the Erebus parents notice a blood-spun web cultist at your side, they exchange glances. An almost imperceptible tension hangs in the air. Okay, yeah, they know exactly what's going on here. I trust things are to your liking thus far? Any thoughts you might like to share? It is beyond all our expectations. We could not have dreamt of something like this, to be honest. Even just permission to settle on Dargonis and continue our service on the dynasty's capital world was a most gracious gesture on Lady Theodora's part. We did not expect any further attention. Zioni smiles gently, but her fingers are fidgeting with her heirloom pendant. Which bears the same engraving as the one she gave me, I imagine. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Please enjoy. I'll catch up with you later. Of course, your lordship. We are available for you at any time. Interesting. How early in life do... Oh, actually, we have been operating kind of tentatively under the assumption that... Let's work our way around the room. I'd like to get some more context before I get too bogged down with spinning our webs. You're pressing down too hard on your quill, Lumi. Look how thick your lines are. And the ink hasn't dried. Mother will be livid when she sees this stain on my cuff. Why don't you watch what you're doing instead of lecturing me again? How many times has Master Rogbard said, apply the base colors first, then the darker shades? The Erebus children are leaning over a sheet of parchment, arguing passionately. A small, finely made box next to them contains quills and a few bottles of ink. Cabela's shadow hangs over the younger Erebuses. Her unblinking gaze carefully studies the unfinished drawing and grows gloomier still. Your lordship, we're honored to be at the Von Valancius Palace. I'm Lorna Erebus. A pale young woman, slightly shorter than Cabela, smooths a lock of her dark hair nervously as she stands between her younger siblings and the spinner. A pleasure. What's this? The parchment is an unfinished family portrait showing the Erebus parents and their 4 children. The young artist's skill is impressive. But your attention is drawn not to the fine lines and shading, but the sketch of a dark figure, added in by a still more masterful hand. Our family was once renowned for their courage, but Dargonis has no need for boarding teams, so our parents enrolled Rono and Lumi in the scriptorium to study religious painting. It certainly seems to be paying off. That's a very impressive piece. This, though, who's this dark figure? Did you add that? Lorna purses her lips and looks away. Mother says that the Erebus clan has a secret guardian that protects us from the shadows, and I thought it would be unfair to draw all of us, but not them. Silly, I know. That is proper. That is honorable. Cabela barges into the conversation, winces, then whispers softly. Come, Daman. let us frighten them no more. Of course. I'll leave you three to it. Please, enjoy. Thank you for your hospitality, your lordship. Cabela casts a final glance at the portrait, then quietly walks away. All right, they're getting pretty on the nose here. Let's see what her brother has to say. I am also anticipating an attack, but I don't see the rest of our squad around. Normally they'd have them lingering somewhere nearby. Your lordship, Senior Lieutenant Mathis Erebus at your service. The tall, dark-haired young man enunciates sharply as he salutes you with great fervor. Breathless from his own audacity, he blurts out, I hope I don't sound too bold if I say I've always dreamt of serving on your flagship. Would it be too much for a modest servant of the dynasty to hope that the Lord Captain might graciously make him part of his crew? Cabela soundlessly appears at your side. Her face is reflected in Mathis's dark eyes. As their gazes meet, they both freeze in astonishment and lower their heads. If Cabela had had enough to eat growing up, if she had not put her body through grueling trials, if she had not used intoxicants during the cult's rituals, you might have said the two bore quite the resemblance to each other. Mathis looks away first. Pardon my tactlessness, mistress. He clears his throat. I have the strangest feeling that we have met before. Cabela takes her time to reply. You were born on a world and absorbed a hive's scents. I would have remembered someone who smelled like that. I do not know you. So, Mathis, you say you've always dreamed of serving on my flagship. I'll warn you, it's not for the faint of heart. You think you're up for the task? I have served dutifully in the planetary forces, your lordship. Governor Drivestem even awarded me a medal for defending the Southern Hive against the Xenos. I might have been born on a gravity-bound world, but my heart belongs to the Void. So, dutiful service and a yearning for the stars, that's the only reason you want to be there? I suppose I can respect that. Well, there is another reason, your lordship, but I'm afraid you will find it laughable. You see, I have always known my destiny awaits me on the flagship, because ever since I was a child, I've had the same dream over and over. A dark-haired young woman walking barefoot along the decks, and me following in her footsteps. I would run, but could never catch up to her. Goodness, Mathis, that almost sounds downright prophetic. My father told me he had felt something of the sort when he met my mother. Mathis's eyes take in Cabela's features. He smiles sadly. I believe my future awaits me there. Well, I wouldn't recommend you, marry her, but yes, I believe I know who you're talking about. And of course, if such is your wish, you're welcome to serve on my ship. Though I do suspect your parents might have something to say about that. This is truly an honor for me, Lord Captain. I will not let you down. Glory to House von Valancius. Let us go, Cabela whispers softly. I have heard and seen all I needed to. No, I don't think we're quite done here. I know this might be uncomfortable, Kibbs, but probably best we get this all sorted while we've got the chance. Still not seeing anything suspicious, though. Just guess we'll see. Your Lordship, allow us to thank you once again for this honor. Though we left the flagship a long time ago, it is a pleasure to be in the presence of a Lord Captain again. Zioni looks at you with a pensive, unblinking gaze, her eyes darker than the night sky. We realize that your attention to House Erebus was brought on by some manner of circumstances. Please let us know how we can be of service to you, and we will do what you require. A keen observation. Randor's eyes meet Cabela's as she speaks, but he is not intimidated. On the contrary, the corner of his mouth curves upward slightly, and he gives a respectful nod. Okay, he definitely recognizes her then. Please, tell me more about your clan. I only just recently heard about you. Sadly, we are but a shadow of what was once a much more numerous clan. Most of our kinspeople fell in combat, but we believe the Erebus's last battle is yet to be fought. We raise cohorts of successors. We teach new recruits, and our own children, the ins and outs of void service, before they even set foot on board. The new generation are learning to serve in their own way. Our oldest son, Mathis, is on the Planetary Guard. So is Lorna, our eldest daughter, though she has devoted herself to medicine. And to my great surprise and elation, our younger children, Rono and Lumi, have found their vocation in serving the God Emperor and the Ecclesiarchy. Very admirable. I suppose I can see why your service drew my predecessor's eye. I won't lie, your lordship. We never actually saw her in person. We did not have the rank. Even her favor was bestowed on us in the form of a document, penned and delivered by a scribe. But we remember her orders, and they were reflective of all the courage and fervor of a true rogue trader. Well, let's not go crazy, but thanks, I suppose. Alright, well, brass tacks. I've called you here because I'm looking for a woman named Naaki Erebus. The ship's archives mentioned there were a few in your clan, but I notice she's not here with you. The couple exchange glances again. Our clan has a tradition. We name our children in honor of our past heroes. Mathis and Naaki Erebus, the twin founders of our family, a great warrior and a keeper of knowledge. Legend had it that a great future awaited bearers of those names. Every Mathis or Naaki Erebus would add to the clan's renown, and they would prove faithful assistants to any Lord Captain they served. But legends are just that. Legends. It is not names that give people strength, but the faith inside their hearts. You say that, but I can't help but notice your eldest son still bears the name Mathis. And yet there's no Naaki? No. No one has borne that name for many years now. Just out of curiosity, how old is your son Mathis? Randor laughs. What can I say? I have always wanted to raise a great person. I notice you also have an eldest daughter. Why name her Lorna and not Naaki? Did you not want her to be great? I really shouldn't have to be dancing around this. I didn't... They did name a daughter Naaki. Cabela's words hang heavy in the air. Zioni Erebus nods slowly in response, a sad smile upon her lips. We did, but the Emperor took her from us. The Undying Emperor. Let me guess, a price paid to free yourself from the blood-spun web? No, your lordship. Randor and I, we have always been stalwart in our faith, and we revered the Spinner's service, but their sacred path was too dark and frightening for us. We may not have understood the deeds of the blood-spun web, but we never doubted that the spinners carried out his will, for they gave their all to their duty. It is a heavy duty, but a true duty always is. Phrasing. Enough. Gabella's cold, raspy voice sends a shiver down your spine. Gabella's cry brings the Erebus family back together. 6 alarmed faces, 6 people standing shoulder to shoulder like a fortress wall, and one lone, grim figure opposite them. The shadow peers into their dark eyes, the same as her own, their pale lips the same as her own. She clenches her fists, ignoring the steel claws that pierce her palms. Enough. I know who Naaki Erebus is. Her unblinking gaze turns to you. Right. Bit of an open secret, I think. Obvious from the moment your family arrived. Naaki. Zioni Erebus looks at Cabela with scarcely concealed fear, but her husband notices her reaction and shakes his head in warning. No! Mathis screams. How could you keep something like that to yourselves? How could you? Lorna hugs her younger brother and sister, who cast frightened glances at their parents, and the sinister woman with the wry smile. Naaki Erebus. Cabela throws her head back and her laughter resonates through the hall. Naaki Erebus is me. And your brother, Mathis, it would seem he shares your gift for prophecy. He's been seeing you in his dreams. Yes, the woman who is destined for me. Not the love of my life, but my sister? Mathis shudders and stares intently at Cabela. I didn't know. Do you remember me? I remember what I am permitted to remember. The tenets of the web, prayers to the Undying One, the names of poisons and intoxicants, the name the Vizier gave me. But you... No, I do not remember you. I do not know you. And Lorna, you'd heard your parents talking about your clan's Shadow Guardian. Yes, an unseen shadow, a servant of death. Mother called her Naaki, but I knew she was talking to someone she knew. So when you two said that you had lost Naaki to the Undying Emperor, we did not lie. We would never have dared. Randor looks over at Cabela, her dark hair, her scars. Naaki. A few years before Lady Theodora sent our clan survivors to Dargonis, the Bloodspun Web's Vizier came to our bay. He said the Emperor demanded the next firstborn of the Erebus clan, that he needed a new spinner. 6 months later, we had twins, a boy and a girl with eyes darker than darkness itself. Zioni smiles tenderly at Cabela. You were born first, Naaki, and with sorrow and pride we gave the Vizier our most precious treasure, for that is how one honors the God Emperor. I appreciate your faith, but you realize what you're saying, right? We thought of the sacrifice we had to make, and of the sacrifice the Emperor makes for all. It was hard for us, but we did not doubt his will. It was our sacrifice, and our service, So if I had been born a minute earlier, that animated corpse standing before you today would have been me? Mathis recoils from his parents. But why doesn't she remember anything? Why was she never told? The ritual of releasing the burden. Cabela steps up to her brother, who is so completely like her, and yet so thoroughly different. New blood-spun web recruits undergo it in order to forget their past and devote themselves to the Undying One, and so that their souls do not suffer. Tell me, Mathis, is your soul in pain? It only hurts because I never knew you all these years. Cabela turns to you sharply. We are here to settle our debt to the Undying One. We now have the name, the person, and the explanation. I know what must be done. So why do I feel pain from an unseen wound in my heart? Why am I, for the first time in my life, hesitant to sever a thread? All this time I have been wandering in the labyrinth of my mind, but the answer never came to me. What must I do, Daman? How do I end Naaki Erebus? Oh, I don't like where this is going at all. Defying the will of the Emperor seems like a mistake, but then again, how much of that vision can we really trust? Ultimately, I do feel like the choice is hers, but we can at least put our finger on the scale. The past is often painful, but it helps us grow and learn. You can try to run from it or even try to destroy it, but only by removing the people who shared it. Is that something you'd really want to do? Cabela, dismayed, looks first at the Erebus family, then at you. Then at her own reflection in the steel of her dagger. I will not kill. Must I follow my orders when my entire nature shrinks from it, and my heart screams it is wrong? This is not my will. I could have had a family and a future full of righteous service, a chance for a different life. That was taken from me. Who I would be and how I would serve was decided for me. She clenches her fist. The Vizier forged me into a weapon and stained it with blood. He named a mark. He gave a mission. Come, Daman. We must descend into the Temple of Death, where I will report on my task, and ask the Vizier a single question. Why me? You have grown into a fine woman, Naaki, and though you may be lost now, I know the Emperor will point you right. We are proud of you. The corners of her eyes twitch, as though she is in pain. My name is Cabela. Interesting. Wait, are we going back to the ship? No, okay, we're still here. Yeah, so not entirely how I expected that to go, but still very interesting. And knowing what we know now, I think it does help flesh out, I think, a theory that we've been kicking around for a while now. That being that both the Vizier and, of course, Cabela are both unsanctioned psychers akin to, but perhaps not as dangerously far along as Adira. Obviously with a focus on divination or premonition. I mean, that's something they've been hinting at as far back as when Cabela first busted out the Emperor's Tarot, and we passed that Imperial lore check, noting that generally only Psychers could actually make use of such artifacts. Honestly, at this point, I kind of assume that all of the ranking members of the Bloodspun Web, the Spinners, are, at least to varying degrees, psychic sensitive, because I think that is how they find their victims. It's not so much the Undying Emperor, but rather it was posited by a few of the viewers over the past, several episodes, that was how they were fighting against the Gene Stealer cult that had infiltrated the ship, that they were knowingly or unknowingly tapping into the psionic communication, which would allow them to not necessarily understand what was going on, but rather simply to identify the tainted people who were part of those communications, and then they would just pop in, kill them, and move on, which was why their killings would often seem so random and spontaneous. And given that the Vizier is almost certainly a diviner himself, it would explain why he would know, I suppose, that Cabela was destined to become a top-notch spinner herself, hence why he would approach the family like that. Perhaps he pulled some strings and was part of why the rest of her family was moved off the ship after they surrendered her to his care, since they were not members of the cult, and thus their names would not be whispered by the Undying Emperor. It all does kind of make sense in retrospect. And honestly, it dovetails pretty nicely into something else I've kind of been kicking around for the last couple of episodes, which is, now that the Gene Stealer cult is dealt with, now that they are apparently well and truly gone, where does the cult go from here? And I think that's exactly what this particular thread is meant to tie. Perhaps the whole reason Cabela was assigned to us was so she would become the most worldly and experienced of the spinners, thus making her an ideal replacement for the Vizier, now that his singular purpose has been completed. Or, perhaps he was just trying to get rid of her. I suppose there could be more sinister connotations to this whole thing. I think what we're seeing here, though, has all the hallmarks of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. A grand vision put in motion generations ago, when the original founder of the Bloodspun Web first butted heads with the Gene Stealer cult that had infested the ship. I'll be curious to see how it all wraps up, though I'll say I do have a pretty good feeling about it. I mean, obviously we've had a good influence on Cabela, although it made her a bit unstable for a while. She's showing signs of restraint, compassion, general introspection that she completely lacked when we first met her. But I guess we'll see. Really comes down to how the Vizier reacts when we confront him. That said, we'll hit the pause button for now. I'll take care of the usual off-screen bookkeeping, and we'll pick up here next time. As one way or another, the spinner's thread comes to an end. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Eerie V23, Revenant, Alois, Arrow Bowman, Dragon Matrix 7, Drakiith, EgonAlter, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Kazorm, Lady Shayna, Mark Giemza, Nathan Welch Jr., OverlordPherom, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Tomasz Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you could even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.
Take heed, Nemo. Our blessed Domin honors us with a visit.